Hey guys, I'm getting ready for my Glory 67 Orlando card. It's going to be really exciting because it's here in my hometown now, and I get to stay at home, cut weight at home, and just be at home. It's generally a much nicer. With that, I've been telling everyone that I'm going to be uploading some videos of the training camp specifically for this fight. Hopefully it's a little easier to do since I don't have to worry about the travel and whatnot. But another thing I said I would do for everybody is answer a few questions. And one of them that I keep getting from random people in comments, as well as amateur fighters around, things like that, is how did I get into Glory? How did I get my contract with Glory? And I don't see a lot of places where people answer that question. And I guess you could replace Glory with any major organization that people fight for. Is how do you get into those organizations, especially if you don't use an outside agent or manager? And I have a real simple way that I did it, and it might not be the smartest way, it's definitely not the best way, but it did work. It worked for me, and for those that don't ever make it, they have no excuses. So I'll get into the specifics of these individual situations I'm going to give you in other videos, but mainly how I got into Glory is my reputation. Basically, one day got a phone call from a matchmaker or a promoter from another show who I had fought for previously, and I'll get into those later as well, telling me he had a Glory show coming up. They were helping matchmake the prelims on a Glory show in New York. One of their fighters just fell out. It was 6 days away, and answered the phone. Basically said, "John, I know you're the guy that'll take these fights. I know you won't back down. We're calling you up. Can you do it?" Long story short, I took the fight, ended up getting a 4-fight contract with Glory, and here we are today. To break it down into a little bit more detail, there's a show called Friday Night Fights in New York City, and they're probably one of the longest running, or at least most prestigious, Muay Thai shows in North America. The who's who's fought on it. It's always tough fights, and so if you fight for them, especially for pure Muay Thai, they don't do kickboxing, it's Muay Thai. That's kind of one of the pinnacles of the sport, and I actually got involved with them one day when one of their local fighters, a fighter from actually Florida, was scheduled to fight one of their guys in the main event. He ended up pulling out a few days notice, and everyone was super pissed about it. They put out a message asking, "Hey, is there anybody that can come fight this killer up here on," I think it was maybe 7 or 8 days notice for that one. I stepped up, I took that fight. All I asked in return was, "Hey, I'm going to come up here, I'm going to fight this guy, short notice. He's really good. Obviously, I haven't been training for it. Basically, don't have time to train at all. I just got to go right in a weight cut. Can you guys do me a solid and give me another big fight, but with more notice?" So they were thankful for that. They were happy for that. I went up there, fought as hard as I could, and that was that. So I met everybody, got into that show. A few months later, I'm slated to fight one of their, again, top guys, but this time I got plenty of notice. Well, maybe a couple of weeks before the fight, I get a phone call from the promoter saying that, hey, he was going to have to pull out. He was actually contracted with Glory already at the time, and he said, hey, he's not feeling great. This guy was also his manager. I'm going to pull him. I apologize, but it's not worth, future injury or his future fights to do it. And I understood. So, again, a few months later, same thing happens as my first fight with them. Is one of their guys pulled out. They knew who to call. I stepped up and I took the fight. The reason I'm telling you all this is these were extremely tough fights that I took. They were short notice. I wouldn't advise most of my guys to do it, but that's why you need to stay ready. These guys knew I would step up and fight hard and take these fights, and when the time came, when the opportunity came to fight one of these big organizations, I was the name they thought of. It doesn't always go your way. However, it gets you to where you want to go. It's not always a straight path of trying to pick the safest and easiest fights, because that won't always get you there. When they needed somebody, they knew who to call, who they could rely on. I also get paid very well when I take these short notice fights, which is another big perk. But they knew who to call, and it got me the contract, and it got me to where I am today. So again, I just wanted to throw that out there so people know that's how I got to where I got. Again, since I've moved to Florida, it's been about 8 years. I've primarily had to train myself, especially in striking. And I can't always say definitely say I'm not the most technical or the strongest. However, I show up and I fight and I do my best, and it's gotten to the point where now it's my livelihood, and I'm able to count on these fights to help me get through life. So there you go. When people ask, hey, how do you get there? I'm not going to go on a spiel and tell you, hey, make sure you really pick your fights well, this and that. What I would tell you to do is train hard every day. There's no training camps. You don't need a training camp. You need to train every day. You need to be ready for when they do, pick up that phone and give you a call, and hey, it's 2 weeks from now, a week from now, hopefully 6 weeks from now. But you never know. If you're able to step up and take the fights, that spreads. People hear about that. Promoters hear about that, and they need that. And that's how a lot of guys actually get into the UFC. That's how a lot of guys get into places like Glory, Friday night fights, and things like that. So there it is. That's how I got into Glory, and it got me to where I'm at. And guys, I did just want to add one more thing. I will be doing separate videos just like this, and I'll go over each of those fights I kind of briefly talked about a few minutes ago. My first fight with Friday Night Fights, the couple fights I had with them, and my couple of fights in Glory so far, and break those down for you, break down the situations, and hopefully give you some industry insight on how this all works. So I'll be talking more about that, and I'll also be uploading some of the training footage and my day-to-day stuff going on here as I'm getting ready for Glory 67 in Orlando.